All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another week of our City of Mist campaign, The Reaper Soldiers. I am so happy to have all of my recent characters and players back tonight. Should be some fun. We're gonna catch up with each of our characters, see what they've been doing for the past couple days since the successful completion of cleansing the water in the West Slums. So a quick recap of last week, just to fill everybody back in. You had all headed over to the West Slums to try to deal with the body in the cistern. While there, you saw that a crowd of civilians was once again crowding around a local gang getting water from barrels it seems they probably have stolen from a brewery in the industrial district. A group of you went inside the actual cistern, were able to locate the body, see that the body was the cause of the disease that was spreading throughout the district, and attempted to remove it, realizing that by touching the body, you would suffer some foul effects. So you decided instead, let's go and try to find something that we can move the body with. While you guys were all in the slums, Blanche was out in the streets and started to hear a bit of a commotion. She snuck around the building to see that those with the water were yelling at a group of men that were kind of back in an alleyway, just kind of standing and staring. She was able to use some of her magic to get them to leave the area, in which, by doing so, kind of drew some attention to her from the gangsters that were giving out the water. As she was heading back to the cistern to get an idea what the crew was up to, she saw something fly and then land with a heavy crash right in front of the door. A stone creature, but this time with wings, appearing to be more gargoyle than a lion or dog as the previous one. It began to make its way inside the small room at the top of the stairs where Mike was busy trying to search for something to move the body, and she was able to yet again use her magic to stop the vehicle. The creature. While it was stopped, it was still able to speak and began to question the group as to who are you, why did you steal from us, why are you thieves, and you all were able to give a pretty good reasoning behind the purpose of the flower. Whoever was controlling this creature was able to agree that it was an acceptable use of their flower. And even offered to assist you with the body, in which they identified it as a dark creature, a creature of darkness, and used its magic to disintegrate the body. So now with the body gone, you all tried to figure out, okay, what do we have to do here? Georgie was able to speak to the flower and able to figure out that the flower must pierce wherever the location of the disease, and then also something about the sign of the cross. She was able to get a little help from Mike, who was able to also speak to the plant and get more information about what needed to be happen, which meant somebody needed to get in the water and, stab away at this blob of icky residue from where the body had left. Unwillingly at first, Mike kind of fell into the water, drank a bit of the infected water, and started to feel his insides really just start to feel quite bad, but was able to stab the darkness with the flower, and eventually was able to mark it with the sign of the cross, which then removed the darkness from the water, cleansed the water as it were, and by drinking the water found that he was no longer infected. You then went up into the streets to cry out that the water was now clear, that it was safe to drink. This seemed to upset the gangsters that had been giving away the water, and so they came over in an attempt to stop you, to quiet you, to keep the public on their side. When that did not work, the leader of this gang, a woman named Yasmin, showed up and had a bit of a yelling match with Blanche about what she thinks is right and what outsiders should do in her district, and so on and so forth, trying to be, big and scary. And, well, at the end of it, she did banish all 5 of you, saying you were no longer welcome in the slums. You felt successful. You were able to provide the information to the people that it is now safe to drink the water. In fact, if you are sick, make sure you drink the water, because this water will help to cleanse your sickness. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of fade away from that. You've each headed back home, and we're going to get an idea of what you do over the next couple days. Coming towards the weekend, so we ended on Wednesday, we'll be going through Thursday, Friday, kind of Saturday. Get an idea of your personal life. Again, we don't have to go into deep detail about every single thing you're doing, but anything interesting that you feel your character would be doing as we go through. So just give me one moment here. All right, so I'm actually going to start off with Blanche. So we kind of follow the camera as it comes up and over the city. It follows the lily fields up to the northwest and goes up and over the walls of the gated community, kind of going past all of these, seemingly large houses before it gets into the realm of mansions. Most of the houses themselves are kind of obscured, whether through greenery, fog, mist, whatever it was. But we come to the front of the house that we recognize as the house of the Astors. So, Blanche, I assume that you are, at some point over the next couple days, creating a report for the Order. So, give me an idea of what kind of information you would put within your report before you sent it out.
I would probably be reporting on almost everything. The statues being magically animated, the body that we found, what my suspicions might be, the owl mark, and the stake, how we went about cleansing the water and what the effects thereof were.
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty much the only thing I wouldn't be mentioning is the little girl.
Okay.
That's not something I would want them really to have anything to do with. Yeah, I mean, like, nothing hugely specific, but also, because it's Blanche, extremely specific. Like, she's very meticulous.
Mm-hmm.
She'd have notated everything she could think to include. I think the only things that wouldn't have been mentioned were the little girl and the boy at the pit.
Mm-hmm.
The I guess teenager guy.
Mm-hmm.
He would not be in there either, because she doesn't need to deal with that.
So you had a few newcomers that were with you, and you learned that they were there because the Order had specifically tasked them. Would you report any of your thoughts about how you think they did? Anything like that?
I don't know that Blanche would give much in the way of her personal impressions unless it was specifically requested of her.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would mostly just be like a play-by-play. This is what they did, this is how they contributed,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. It wouldn't be so much of, this is what I think of this person. Because if she did that, then most of the group would get bad reports on a regular basis. So,
Hey.
What? So, she's just very, very matter of fact. Like I said, she's very, very meticulous and very detailed. But would try to keep personal opinions and emotions out of it as much as possible.
And how does Blanche feel about that mission? While it seemed to go by fairly smoothly, does she feel like it's successful, or does she feel good about it, or does she still kind of carry concerns about the group as a whole?
I mean, the mission, she's perfectly happy with how it turned out. There were definitely some rough patches, things that probably should have gone better, but didn't for various reasons. But I think the mission itself she's happy with. It was a success. They did what they went there to do. They saved a lot of people in the process. She's more than anything, I think she's probably frustrated that it took them so long, and
Mm.
frustrated that she didn't even know that there was this outbreak in that part of town until like the order brought it to her attention. Although that's not something that would go in the report. That's mostly just a personal. Probably if she probably feels a little bit like she failed because it was never something she was aware of until other people told her. But that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a big deal, you know? Like you would feel like if you're living in the city, even if you're not living in that part of it, that you would know when something that big is happening. Something that's severe.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a little bit of a bleeding heart, you know, she wants to do good things to help people better themselves, so not knowing that people were dying to that degree from something that serious bothers her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you kind of, again, to bring everybody into your character, family has been wealthy for a long time, old money, as you said. Parents passed away a while ago. You live with your older brother, Elijah. He's an investor of sorts. Recently has invested in a company that had a strange machine that seemed to be able to record pictures in real time and then display them in small increments. I would say over the next couple days, you do notice that your brother is gone a lot of the time. Rises fairly early in the morning and comes home fairly later in the evening. He always seems to be happy. You know, he probably recounts a bit of his days. It seems like they're doing some kind of testing, trying to see how much longer the footage can go. And he's starting to get a bit of an ego, as it seems the Hogans are really treating him as like their main star. That he is the face that is displayed in all of these films that they're making. So you can tell he's just extremely happy with it. But you're starting to see some notices start to stack up, you know, whether they're bills or, you know, letters from any of the other investments that he's a part of. You're definitely seeing the pile is starting to rise of unanswered kind of requests. But beyond going to the library, what would a day in the life of Blanche Oster really kind of look like? What kind of tasks would be required of you to kind of maintain the day while your brother was busy kind of doing his business meetings and the such?
I mean, most of it is fairly straightforward. You know, she has to run the house. You know, if there's any concern about whether or not workers... I'm sorry, 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
You're okay.
You know, it's most of it's fairly mundane. It's making sure that workers receive payments that they're due. You know, if they have like outside gardeners or somebody come in to do a repair, it's usually something that falls to the woman of the house to deal with. You know, she'd make sure that the household staff is timely and does their job well. Although she's not the type to hang over their shoulder. It's one of those things, if she notices that something seems off, then she'll start looking. But I imagine that most of their staff, it's kind of, given the time period, most of their staff are people who, like, their parents worked for the Astors. You know what I mean? They know what they're doing. They don't need to be babysat. So she kind of leaves them to it most of the time. And if they need something, they can come and tell her. You know, she's probably trying to keep up with social engagements and all of that, helping with charity benefits and all of those little tedious things that are part of having money, unfortunately.
Yeah, you definitely have your staff works like clockwork. You know, every morning they're up. They have the tea and breakfast. The linens are clean. The garden is pruned. The horses are cared for. You know, the house is just clean and upkept. and everything just runs as it has for so long. I think the stranger thing is just your brother is not at home as often as he normally is. You know him to have a lot of business meetings, but they're, lunches or brunches or, late kind of drinking and smoking cigars, that kind of thing. But for him to actually go and then seem to work just seems to be a bit of an emptiness. It makes the house feel a bit more quiet than you normally have. Have you spent any time staring at your mirror, trying to see anything? Or are you trying to avoid having any...
I think I don't know that she's actively trying to provoke the visions, because it seems like they tend to be more clear when she's not trying to provoke them, like it's a little bit more muddied and a little bit more fluid if she's actively trying to call on something. But yeah, she's probably spending a fair amount of time kind of trying to study up, I know that she would be spending time trying to develop a new face, because the one that she was using has basically it's got to be burnt, basically. It's not something she can use again unless she specifically needs that look, needs to reappear as that person, I mean.
And then
I know go ahead.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
I know that she would be trying to look in on the little girl, just to make sure that she's okay and that she's getting better, because she would have dropped off the jar of water that she collected the first day. So I think she would probably be trying to look in on her.
And Eric, you had provided her with the address, or was it just saying? Okay.
He gave me the address.
And so, Blanche, you haven't really spent a lot of time around the city, but have you ever gone to the ethnic borough before?
No, I haven't. So I imagine it was a learning learning experience the first time I went.
Yeah, the first time I imagine going through it's almost like trying to view a distant place through a kaleidoscope as you kind of walk through this borough, and almost every city block seems to be unique to some kind of ethnicity. You'll go through a place that kind of looks like a Chinatown, one that's very Japanese cultured, another one that seems to be more kind of Eastern European, kind of Spanish place, and they all have their unique kind of styles of the things that they have hanging above the streets, the kind of food and smells that you gather as you walk past these buildings, the things that the street vendors are selling. Some of them are very bright and pretty to look at. Other ones are very specific to, this is the task, this is a place for sleeping, so you will have a bed, and this is a place to go to work, so it will have a desk, more cement and concrete. But you actually stop at one of these more gray parts of town. It's a little block of maybe 4 or 5 fairly tall tenement buildings, apartment-style buildings, each one of them seeming to have maybe about 50 to 70 individual apartments within them. The courtyard beneath is just a large gray slab of cement that you can see that there are some older kind of some bicycles that are around there. You do see a few horses that are hitched. But you find your way inside and you kind of walk up these stairs. Again, all the stairs, they have these hard stone steps, and it just feels kind of uncomfortable. There's not anything that makes it feel too lively, but you knock on the door, and as it opens, an older woman kind of stands there, and immediately you get like this sense of peace and calm, and maybe a feeling that you might remember from when you had gone to see your grandmother the first time. The smell of freshly baked cookies in the background, the furniture all just looks a bit like it's been overstuffed and just something you want to lay down upon. It just looks so comfortable. The paintings on the wall show happy people or lovely landscapes, and everything just seems really nice. But you comes to the door and you're able to speak a little bit. You kind of introduce yourself as concerned citizen. Who would you?
I would introduce myself as a friend of Eric's.
Mhm.
In fact, the one who recommended that he bring. I'm sure I would have her name, but I, for the life of me, can't remember it right now. Brought her here, or at least asked him to help find her a place to stay.
And are you showing up as the industrial worker, or is it
Yes,
a new face?
I would be using a face that that the little girl could recognize in case she saw me. So.
Let's see. I believe her name. Let's see. Was it Elsa? Maybe?
I have Ella written down.
Ella.
So.
I knew
Ella.
it was L something. So yeah. I think after a while you actually see her kind of peek out, and she smiles as she recognizes you. It kind of goes up. You can already tell the colors kind of return to her cheeks. Her hair's been brushed out. You see it's these really nice, beautiful kind of golden locks that have been combed out and kind of sitting with a small curl at the end. That her clothes seem to be not necessarily new, but clean. You know, they do look faded, a bit old. But back behind you can actually see it appears to be a stack of books, fairly new, and it does look like, you know, as far as the things that are being purchased here, it may not be clothes, but it's definitely books and probably food and that kind of stuff, just from what you can see. But you're able to have a brief conversation with them, you know, stay as long as you want. The woman probably offer you a bit of cookies, a chance to sit down, have some warm milk, and you know, a friend of Eric is family here, so spend as much time as you want kind of conversing with them. Is there anything in particular you are looking to ask or confirm?
Not necessarily to. Well, no. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would do is I would give the older woman the water, and you know, say very explicitly that it's, you know, it's basically it's got medicine in it and it'll help her feel better.
I think so Lydia's her name, Lydia Ludvinenko, I believe. And she'll actually kind of ask you a little bit about the water, because it seems that a few citizens from the West Slums have actually kind of moved into the tenement. So she asks, you know, is it easy to get more of this water? It does seem like they might be sick, and I'd like to be able to help them if possible.
I would inform her that the water was collected from the West Slums, because the water source there had been medicated, for lack of a better term, and so, you know, if they need it, they should go there and collect it from there.
Okay.
I just brought it with me because I thought I was only bringing enough for one.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So as you kind of spend a couple days doing that, let's talk about your downtime. So you do have the montage moves. Do you have any specific ways that you're spending it based off the list that's provided by that move?
I'm under the impression that the only thing I can really do is get the burnt tag back that I burned.
Yeah.
So, I think it's mostly just relaxing and doing some light studying and practicing, but nothing heavy or strenuous.
Towards the later part of the week, probably Thursday or Friday, Elijah comes home, and again looking good, but a bit sideways. It's clear he's been drinking, but he kind of stumbles in and he sees you. Sister, it's been another wonderful day. How has your day been?
Fine. You've had quite a few letters.
He looks over. Yes. I'll get to those once I can. Just a bit too busy these days. Listen, I have a bit of an ask for you. Mr. Hogan says that he might have a few potential interested parties, and well, he was asking if I might be willing to throw a bit of a get-together here on Sunday. Of course, I see no reason why not, but Well, I'm gonna need some of the great party ideas that you have within your mind. So, we're expecting probably about 15 guests, and from what I hear, it might actually be a few magistrates and baronets and such. It's gonna be parties like Father used to throw. Do you remember those? Yes. I'm not going to lie, sister. I'm a bit panicked.
I can see why. I should be able to put something together, but you don't have a firm head count.
Not yet, not yet. Mrs. Hogan should be in contact with you with more detail. She of course is happy to help. I think, if anything, we might want to clear the front room. They have this room there at the warehouse. It has a few rows of seats and a large sheet that's kind of hung up on the far wall. He's able to use his contraption to display these things we've been recording. And I think maybe if we cleared out the front table there and maybe made a bit of space, close the curtains, we might be able to use that front room as another viewing area. Maybe if you could get some of the staff on that. The garden as well. I've seen, yes, the flowers. You've been quite busy back there, haven't you? Perhaps a bit of a light meal or something of the sorts back there. Some wine. I'm seeing some finger sandwiches. The lovely smells, the scents. Yes, I think you could make that happen. Yes.
Of course.
Very good. Very good. What are you doing on Saturday?
I didn't have any particular plans.
Great. All right. You're coming with me then. Yes, this would be perfect. You must come and see what they've been doing with this contraption. I must say, every day they have something new for me to do. I've been riding a horse. The other day we went out into downtown and we brought everybody out there. We set everything up right by the tracks and he recorded the train as it went right by. And I tell you what, the first time we saw that, I thought I might die. I thought it was coming right through the wall. It is a miracle what he can make with that thing. It is yes, you must come with me on Saturday. You must see it with your own eyes again. It is.
Well, it certainly sounds impressive, but if you want me to throw a party for Sunday, Saturday may be stretching it a bit, don't you think?
Yeah. True. All right, not a problem. We'll make a plan for sometime next week. I've heard he actually may have a few other actors from the local theater coming in. He wants to try a bit of a Shakespearean something. He wasn't very specific. I guess he got a couple books from the library. I could have sworn a few of them came from yours. I saw the Heritage logo on it. Yes, I don't know. He's coming up with stories now. It's a lot of fun. I'm gonna go and have
sounds promising.
Is dinner ready? I could go for a bite.
It should be any moment now. Do you want me to have it sent into your study, or do you want to sit in the dining room?
Come. I haven't heard what you've been doing for. You must tell me what's going on at that library. Fill me in. Come, have dinner with me, please. It's been too long.
Of course.
So you both make your way in there and kind of recount the past few days. We're gonna go ahead and transition over. The camera kind of flies away from these large buildings and begins to maneuver back towards the blue collar district, where we come across William sitting at his home. It's on campus of this school, first through 12th grade. A couple different buildings around there. He has there's horses that are tied up, but it seems fairly quiet. There's no students playing outside, and it's quite clear it's because it's summer break. But William, you're outside and you're having a conversation with your wife. She's in the back, kind of hanging linens. It's been kind of a hectic past couple days. But what are you guys talking about at the moment?
Oh, probably just the baby and ways to prepare for the baby and where we're gonna find room for a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so Jillian's family, does she come from a large family, small family? Is it something you still keep in touch with?
Oh, her family's huge.
Mm.
There's I don't know. There's probably 40 or so living here in abouts the blue collar district.
Mm. So I mean, by this point, a few of them have probably stopped by to visit. You probably already have, some bouquets that are up in the front window, a few, cooked dinners that have been stowed away in the ice box, and now that you're home, Jillian's starting to have that glow, and you can tell that she'd been stressed, but it's starting to fade away. Just seeing you here, and with her over the next couple days. You know that you still have another couple months, or I guess it's only a couple weeks, probably about 4 or 5 weeks before school will start again. What kind of things do you do to prepare for the next school year?
Oh, I'll probably go to the school's library and look up a few books and then make up a rough plan for the year and probably write up a few tests.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too drastic. It just all kind of happens day to day, but I like to have a rough idea
Okay.
of the school year.
And do you guys have a specific doctor that you go to?
There was a doctor that lived not on campus but nearby,
Okay.
and we've been to him a few times.
So at some point, you make your way in there. He kind of checks over and can't confirm 100%, the pregnancy, but definitely says she appears to show it's still a bit too early. You kind of just spend some time with your wife, just kind of caring for her. You've been gone lately, and I think there's probably a few fairly hard conversations when she kind of brings up questions about what is it that you do, especially after having found that bloody shirt a few weeks ago. How much are you letting her in, if any, to beyond the gym, what William spends his nights doing?
Oh, probably about 80% of it.
So if you told her about the order,
more so it's not like, oh god, there's monsters that we fight and the like, but it's more I was contacted about helping some kids, and then it kind of spiraled from there because I was effective enough, and then yada yada, and now I go about. Sometimes it gets a bit rough, and but nothing about people with powers or
yeah.
More, I suppose, I don't know, I wouldn't say bounty hunting, but somewhere along those lines where things could go violent, but it's really just kind of trying to, I guess, maybe being a private eye. Yeah, that might explain a bit more.
Okay. At some point, you all traveled to her favorite part of the city, the Emerald Lake, and while there, you actually started to notice that some wagons were starting to move in, construction pieces that you would assume would be for the development that's going to begin around the lake. You have some strange feelings about the lake for multiple reasons, but she seems to enjoy it. You notice that the ground surrounding it is very plush, thick green grass, a wide variety of very beautifully smelling kind of flowers grow around it. Some trees have already started to spring up, and they seem to be growing a lot quicker than you would think to be normal, but people seem to just be ignoring them or not noticing them, just assuming that they're part of the greenery. But at some point, something kind of catches your gaze, and you look out to the lake, and you actually see that there's a boat on it, a small rowboat. And you look at it and you kind of stare at it for a moment, and you see them cast something out into the lake. And after a few moments, you see them begin to reel back, and watching, probably about 2 or 3 minutes, you see them pull a fish out, place it into their boat, and cast back out. And as your eyes kind of adjust, you look around and you see that there's a couple other boats that are out on the lake. And over to the shore, you kind of get a panic as you see there's a few small children that are sitting on kind of this small beachy kind of side where the sand is very nice. And they're actually running and diving into the water and kind of splashing around and coming back out and running again, diving back in, just splashing water all over each other. Parents are sitting there with a small picnic, kind of eating some sandwiches, drinking a bit of wine, and seeming to have a nice little family day out at the lake.
Because that's not bad for anybody or anything. I mean, I'm not just gonna run over and tell the kids not to jump in the water. That's. But it is. Maybe I'll.
Just note it in your mind.
Yeah, maybe I have a little journal or something I'll start keeping with me.
Okay.
Just gotta write it down.
So what on the montage move would you be spending your time doing?
Let's see. I can't prepare for the next activity because I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't really... Well, I could recover from the last activity by taking it easy and kind of trying to get my energy back in the lake.
Yeah, tell me what you... It looks like, obviously, Night Eyes and Animal Hearing, those kind of statuses begin to fade. But you still have the Drain status and Burn Palms, Bleeding Sides. I would say... Throughout a couple days, you do find definitely your hands begin to heal. They might be a bit more stiff than they were before, and your sides might still have a bit of a scar, but they seem to heal up. And yeah, I'm gonna say even the drain status, because you're able to sleep and kind of recuperate, that will clear as well. So that should be all. And I hear a thing.
Oh.
Thomas!
I hear a thing, so we all know what that means.
Time to roll.
It is time to roll. So, Mr. William, if you could do me a favor and please roll me a D5.
Oh.
Okay,
oh,
perfect. So that happens to be Mr. William. Go ahead and roll me 2D10.
Of course. I'm gonna
do it.
Die.
All right, we have a 3. That's good. And an 8. Okay. That's nice.
I hate when you say things like that.
So, at some point, one of these nights, you wake up and you have that hunger, and you've been kind of ignoring it the past couple days, but you feel it. So you get up and you kind of go to your ice box and kind of look for any kind of meat in there, but it's all too cold and you don't want to heat up something. So you head outside and you look kind of back in the fields and you see that there's, well, it looks like there's a deer, and it's just kind of standing there and starts to walk towards you, and you feel that scent begin to enter your nose, and you start to feel that thump 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 of the heartbeat, and it feels like this creature is offering itself to sate your needs, if you wish.
Well, I do wish.
So go ahead and just give me a... change the game move.
Yeah.
And go ahead and use the power tags you use when you are feasting to see how much of a status of fed you're going to get. And again, the status, as we've discussed before, is kind of an enhanced ability you have after being well fed, to be able to sometimes hear better, see better, act faster, be a bit stronger, use it as a positive status towards moves.
So we're gonna go with super speed and predict the foe's next move, and this strength one here so I can pin it to the ground.
Okay.
Because we're gonna. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Deer. Oh dear.
Oh yeah. So, go ahead and take
Sandy, no.
a tier 3 status of well fed. It's probably the cleanest you've ever done it. The fact that the creature doesn't really struggle, you approach and you kind of pull it back, away from anyone that might be passing by, and it seems to follow. And you grab it by the neck, you twist the head just the right way, and you sink your fangs into it, but you're careful to consume as much as you can, not allowing a single drop kind of drip. So when the creature's finally, passed, there's really not that much mess. You take it, and what do you do with the corpse? You just kind of take it off to the woods that are nearby? Do you bury it somewhere?
No, I'll bring it back.
Okay, so you take it back to the woods and kind of leave it
No,
there.
not the woods.
Oh,
No. I'm bringing it back to the house.
okay.
I'll chop her up and feed
There you
me
go. Got some food.
some deer.
So you kind of go to your makeshift, shed in the back, and you kind of find your nails, hang it up, and over the next couple days, spend some time skinning it, gutting it, splitting it, and freezing it, and getting some meat. Okay. At some point, you hear one of those newspaper boys out. Hear ye, hear ye. Development on Emerald Lake to start within the week. Those with interest are to meet with Commissioner of the Old Boroughs. Missing boys found, all returned home. Police state boys being boys. Arrest made on high-profile case involving rich boy that had gone missing. Few variety of other messages.
I'll take a paper. Sure.
So as you kind of look over it,
Yeah.
the police are recording that all of the boys that had gone missing seem to have returned home, claiming boys being boys, foul adventures and the sort. The paper doesn't give much information about the family, but you're able to discern that the article of the arrest is about the Bexley family. It does profile a wealthy family, a son that had gone missing, assumed kidnapped, seen at a church involving criminals, and an arrest made of an individual named Dominic, that he is to be charged with the crime of kidnapping, many drug charges, and is being taken to the yard to
Dominic.
suffer his crimes.
The doc should have protected him.
Yeah.
He was never around. Poor Dominic. Oh well. I could probably pay him a visit. That'll be about it.
But with the obviously this mission and the past couple missions, what are William's thoughts about the Order, about his crew, about what he's wanting to do with his life?
To be honest, William's getting kind of tired of the Order just kind of using him as a blunt weapon,
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to screw him in the end. So he's probably just thinking about settling down, and he's probably not going to discuss it with too many people, but he's thinking about settling down and kind of retiring and either becoming a full-time teacher again, or just finding something else to occupy his time.
Yeah. Do you spend any time, just having come out of the hospital, but do you spend any time meeting with the superintendents again, or do you plan to do that in the near future before school starts again?
Yeah, probably spend a little bit of time, writing letters instead of meeting face to face until I'm all healed up. But
do you try to explain what happened?
I mean, do I know how much they know?
You would remember that The superintendent Oscar Dart was the one to find you after breaking out of the jail cart, battered and bruised, and was the one that actually took you to the clinic. Beyond that, it doesn't seem, you're not sure what else they might know. You just know that he was the one that brought you to the clinic and was able to fill in your details.
Then probably write a very generic letter stating my thanks for taking me to the hospital. I was rather delirious after sustaining injuries. Very vague about it all, but lots of thanking and, sorry for wasting his time about all that stuff. And see how he responds to that.
Okay. So yeah. Beyond that, you're kind of spending some time with your wife, kind of enjoying the time off. But of course, the time off is always so short. One of these the nights you go into the library, and it's a bit darker, and you notice that the door's a bit more difficult to open than it normally is. You try and you try and you try. You even try like kicking it, and it just doesn't want to budge. And so with your enhanced hearing, kind of lean to the door, and inside you can hear movement, and you hear breath. It sounds like the breathing of a small child in the library. But with that, we're gonna go actually head over and talk with Eric. So Eric, you've just done your first mission with the Order.
Sorry about that.
How's Eric feeling about what happened in the West Slums?
Well, overall, he's feeling pretty good that they were able to help all those folks.
Did we, though?
Yes.
Okay.
But he still thinks the Order is sketchy, obviously. He didn't have a great first impression of the Overseer, although it sounded like things were a bit of a mess. So he's sort of not really sure where he's at right now. He's approaching things pretty cautiously, but he's happy that he was able to, do some good at least while he was trying to get to the bottom of this.
So we see Eric, probably coming and going from home, living in the same tenements that Blanche had visited. We see that his mother kind of stays at home cooking and cleaning. He has a younger sister that appears to go to a school, and a brother. Is your brother older or younger than you?
He's older, just ever so slightly.
Yeah. So he has an older brother that he seems to go to work with. His father also seems to work. But recently you were able to actually get a few parts to your contraption. A chain, a lock, a key. And so as you kind of add that into your show, your brother probably asks you, like, how did it go? Like, what are you going to tell Horace?
I'm going to tell him that I'm still not too sure about this group. It was nice to go in on a mission that wasn't immediately dark and sinister, so that was something. But I don't know. I think I don't have enough information right now. I mean, I can tell him what happened. I have no problem doing that, but just don't. I don't have enough to go on just yet to tell him anything of much use.
Yeah, so Martin kind of just nods his head. That's fine, brother. I can't believe that you have this opportunity. We've been waiting for it for so long now, ever since, well, Yeah. So what does this mean? Do you are you supposed to go back with them? Are they gonna get in contact with you?
Last time I went there unannounced, it didn't really go great. That's when I met their, I don't know if it's their immediate supervisor or if it's the boss of the whole operation or what it is, but she was not a fan of me. So I might just sit back a little bit. Try to lay low a little bit. They've obviously got ways of getting messages to me should they want to, so I can do that.
Yeah, he it's like that. That's completely fine. Look, we have this show in about a month now, and I just found out who the producer was, and he goes and he grabs a letter. It brings over the name of a producer you've worked with before, but you've always had some issues with. Who is the producer that you prefer not to work with?
Max Romano is his name.
So
kind of a... Gone?
No, it's okay.
No, I didn't have anything. I was just making up the names.
So the main reason you don't like to work with Max is because he likes to see his players kind of compete, and he always brings along his son. We'll call him Thad Romano, who is also an escape artist, and they always have a little bit more money than you, so things are a bit more flashy. You know he doesn't have the skills.
Right.
And of course, as he always does on the bill, he's put Thad right before an intermission, which then you have to follow.
I see.
There's a few other folks on there. There's magicians. There's a few, seems like opera singers. It seems to be a mixed variety kind of show. There's probably a few names on there that maybe you don't recognize, but a few others that you're familiar with. You've worked with them before. So you're building this water tank, and I think throughout the week you're probably helping Martin and any of your other workers use the forms they've created to start kind of inlaying the glass and making sure it's water sealed. And that takes some time to do. You have to make sure that the sealant actually fully dries before you even try to put water in there, or else you're going to have leaks and it's going to be a whole mess. But yeah, throughout the week you have some time to do that. On the actual montage move, what are you also spending your time doing?
Well, I've still got this busted leg, so I'm doing my best to keep off of it so it can heal faster, so that'll be ready for showtime, because especially now that I've got this competition in front of me, I'm going to need to be at peak performance. Another thing that I might try doing, it's a bit dodgy, but I might try to see what Thad's act is going to look like, so I can try to one-up it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can make that into a different move. So we can start off by recovering from your last activity. I think with time and rest, you are a bit special. So your bones might heal a little bit quicker. So you can go ahead and remove that status, as it might still be a bit sore, and maybe you have to keep it in kind of a loose kind of bandage wrap or something like that. But it's enough that you're almost 100%. What do you know about Thad? Where is his warehouse? Where does he actually build his things and practice?
Let's see. I'm looking at some of my old information that I sent you just to...
Or is this a matter of you kind of going through the contacts that you have and kind of asking around to people, kind of seeing what they might have overheard?
There's going to be a little bit of that, but I'd also like to get a sneak peek at anything that he's working on himself.
Okay. Well, we can definitely, maybe if you don't know, I guess that's the question. Are you familiar where Thad's workspace is? Or is it something you have to find out?
I was trying to remember the name of the district that I told you the theater was in, and I
believe that was downtown. I can check real quick.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think what do we call it? The diamond.
The diamond.
Yeah. The diamond is in downtown on
Okay.
Theater Avenue. It's the city's oldest and indeed largest theater. It's mixed in with a few other theaters and opera houses that line this expansive avenue, while smaller and more obscure establishments scuttle along the side streets. Spectacular productions succeed one another at staggering pace, vying for the fickle audience's attention and money. So yeah, at the Diamond in downtown.
All right. So I'm probably gonna. He's probably does a lot of his work and maybe even some. Well, maybe not self promotion, but maybe bragging around the downtown area. Probably has a little bit of a shop. I think that he's probably from a wealthier district of town. That's why they're able to get so much, so much leverage in terms of cash. So. Yeah, it's probably in downtown, but like in a higher class part of downtown.
Okay. Yeah, they probably have some, warehouse that's built into the back of one of these storefronts or something like that, whatever their father or his father actually does. But you've definitely passed by it. You've maybe tried to sneak around it before. I'm going to have you roll and investigate. To see how much information you're able to glean from the location itself, and then also asking the other people that you trust within the Diamond, those that you've worked with before.
So we're doing an ask around.
And ask around and observe. Basically, what can you see through the doors and the windows as you kind of sneak around?
Okay. I would say that the elaborate planner comes into play. Art of deception also, because loose lips sink ships, as we all know. So if I can get some people to spill some information that they otherwise wouldn't have meant to, that's going to be good for me. And probably the acutely perceptive one.
Okay. All right, perfect. So you have 3 questions to ask. What would you like to know?
I'd like to know what his act is. Like, what's it going to be?
Okay. There's a few stages to his act, it seems. So you observe him escaping from a straitjacket to begin with. It seems like it's going to be part of some kind of show that he's putting on. So it starts off with something like that. You witness that at some point it seems someone uses it almost looks like an animal leash or animal collar to place it up and over his neck and kind of drag him back and begin to wrap him up with chains that are attached to some old style kind of turn wheels, and then locked in place. And he has to almost use his strength to pull these chains enough to pull the lock kind of in front of him. It almost looks like the Bible story where he breaks down the pillars kind of thing, long hair. I can't remember the exact story, but Samson, yeah, kind of that kind of dialogue. And you see as he's doing this that the elements of whatever building he's in begins to kind of collapse, and as the chains kind of snap, he falls back into some kind of coffin, which is then buried with dirt, and he then arises from it as if from the dead. Very, as you get it, kind of God-man mental state. The people think I'm crazy. I will break down the pillars of society and then rise up again as a god. But you're seeing that the axe, it's fake locks. The dirt is laying, but there's a small slit between where the dirt actually is and the plywood that he has to break to get out. Small things that you just kind of notice from that.
Okay.
But you do know it's something the audience will love. They love that kind of showy stuff.
Okay. All right. So then, question number 2. I'm probably going to. I probably want to see if I can get a look at the kind of locks and chains that he's using.
Okay.
The idea being that if I'm going to put this sort of thing in my show, I'm going to make a show of how cheap they are and
Okay.
how easy they would be for anybody to escape from.
Okay.
That might be where I bring in my big, hefty, crazy monster lock.
Okay. Yeah, I think at some point they all kind of go out to lunch, and you're able to sneak your way in there. They seem to be fairly common locks that you can get at any kind of metal worker, but he's jerry rigged them so that they have a spring lock, so that there's a small little button he just has to press at the end, and they actually pop free, and that the key doesn't actually do anything. They've removed that kind of mechanism from the locks themselves. The chains, they are sturdy, but they're a lighter material. They don't feel like the typical thick iron that you're used to. They're kind of a lighter material, so even on him, they won't be weighing him down with weight. And honestly, you think finding the right kink, you could probably snap these chains in two, just with enough strength.
All right. Well, that's actually very cool. I might actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking crowd like a crowd participation thing where I use the same locks that he does and just let people just pull them apart or pop
There
them
you
open
go.
with a push.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the third thing that I'm going to do is is he building hype for his act that I can maybe rain a little on his parade somewhat?
You don't
Like, is
hear
he out
anything
there?
on the street yet, but you do notice some flyers that are beginning to be printed out, and on it you see him done up in very old, like Roman gecko garb, a large white robe with this golden kind of belt, and he's tied up to these pillars on the side, and you can tell his muscles are over exaggerated, his hair is kind of flowing, and it's just a complete hype piece just for his thing, but it doesn't look like it's spreading yet. But they definitely have flyers to begin to spread once it might probably gets closer to the actual date.
Okay. All right. I guess that's my 3.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
I am gonna get several of the same locks and chains as he's planning to use in his act.
Okay.
For myself. Because I do think that I think I'm gonna have some fun with that.
Do you have a specific person that you go to for your building supplies, or is it just a generic kind of lumberyard or something like that?
Yeah, there's nobody specific that I go for, especially if it's something as common as these chains and locks seem to be. Like, I would just like pick them up at any hardware store that might sell them.
So at some point throughout the week, heading into the weekend, you'll be sitting, having dinner, and kind of end of the day by going back through your journal, going through the new designs, the tweaks that you've made, making sure you're adding in these new notes about what Thad's doing. But you come across another letter that has been left. You notice this time it doesn't seem like the window was open, so you might have a moment of confusion. But recognizing the letter, you take it, kind of hide it, and you bring it into your room. The letter's pretty simple. It just says, "Congratulations, Eric. You have shown that your abilities and strength can succeed to help the lives of many. We do hope that you understand your role within the Reaper soldiers is not one to be taken lightly, and that with your strength and abilities, you can touch much more than those in the slums. It doesn't give you a specific point. It just says just keep an eye out for letters as you're required to attend. We will contact you and continue doing what you're doing. We look forward to seeing you grow.
Okay.
Perfect. So as you kind of head into the weekend, we're going to transition over to downtown, where we come across a seamstress kind of shop, a few mannequins in the window, fairly fine clothing, dresses, men's suits, and all of that. Inside, there's a fairly large open area to sell the clothing, a place for those to change, and someone up in the front making sales. But we actually go through the back curtain where we come into the factory that's back behind, maybe 15 or 20 seamstresses down at their machines making these different clothing. A gentleman's up at the corner with different layouts of fabric, currently working on patterns and new designs, and we see a young woman kind of standing amongst it, overlooking everything and occasionally going and talking to someone, this being Georgie. So Georgie, having made your way back, still a bit confused with things, but feeling successful of being able to help people to use your ability to speak with the flower and provide guidance to this new crew. What is your mindset going into the next day as you awaken, having done everything in the West Slums?
To be honest, she's probably just like trying to come to terms with like what her abilities can do in the grand scheme of her, I guess, life, and that going forward with this group of people, what that may entail, and whether that's a better option than this kind of stagnant career. Like, she made it up there, but they won't give her the title of like foreman. So it's just like she's come to a point where she is frustrated with her work, and this is kind of a new outlet. But if it doesn't work out, then everything that she has worked for would have been for nothing. So she's a bit preoccupied despite the work that's in front of her. She's doing what she can to clear her mind to a certain degree.
And at any point, did you actually go to confront Horace about the fabric that the letter had arrived in? Or did you kind of figure out that it may have been something the Order had provided to keep the letter obscured?
Horace would not really be too much intertwined with the mundane affairs of like the fabric unless it was specifically requested by a client. So going to him with the letter, like if the letter was in it, going to him with just the questions of the fabric, he would not be able to provide anything. She just knows that he couldn't have been bothered to begin with.
And with it being summer, what's the current focus of the back factory? Are you rolling out a new line? Is it just because you're getting a lot of orders? Are you guys preparing for something?
What season are we in?
So it's July, so it's
midsummer?
Summer, yeah.
All right.
Still rainy, but warmer than.
Yeah. So at this point, we may have entered kind of the height of our production for the summer. So a lot of like sheer things, roughly items for the ladies, thinner coats for the men, that sort of thing. But it will taper off before the month ends, and the styles will probably begin to change over in the next month, to pretty much promote like items for the upcoming season. So this is like just before like the changeover, before the actual like hectic portion of the season, so to say. But that's when they'll be like, oh, back to school uniforms for kids, hunting jackets, that sort of thing, weatherproofing for coats, etc. We'll begin heavy promotion. I'm gonna say like late August, like closer to that in the summer.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about where Georgie lives.
Georgie currently lives in a female worker's boarding house. She has a room, and because it's not shared, it is quite petite to, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of just a bed and closet, not much else.
Yeah, it's cozy. But she does stay there due to I guess a recommendation from her own orphanage house, which is close by-ish. She's a bit too old to be staying there still, so next best thing. The place is always kind of like in motion because the girls all work different times and jobs, and they're just in and out, and it's kind of always like somebody's always about in a hallway, in transit. Nobody really lingers in the hallways or anything. They just kind of go straight to the rooms, or they're leaving it, but there is like traffic to some degree.
Okay. And from the montage movie, you have a few things that you can do. What would be your selection from there?
Let's see. Is it in the player moves?
Yeah, it should be on the extended.
Was anything burnt last time?
Not on you. Nope.
Okay.
So basically what you would recall is that obviously there was a dead body in the water. The crew would have informed you about finding some kind of wooden weapon, a stake or a dagger or something like that seemed to have pierced it. Still have his wallet and all of that. But beyond that, you know that Blanche is sending off the report. So, yeah, I don't think you burned anything. And
okay.
As far as what your thoughts are on the order, what you'd want to be doing with that, you could definitely use that. Or if it's more specific to another activity or just exploring your mythos, as far as I've now used my powers, I want to figure out a bit more about it. Anything like that?
And we have a wallet that is that connected to anything? Like, is that something I would have to work the case? Like, is there a case? Is what I'm asking.
So there definitely is a case as far as if you wanted to figure out who killed him.
Okay.
That would be a case. There might be other cases that arrive. You just haven't heard anything quite yet, as again the report was just being sent and the order hasn't reached back out to you yet.
Okay. And do I have the wallet, or does somebody else have the wallet?
Blanche, would you have kept the wallet, or would that have been something that you sent back to the pit?
I would have sent that back to the pit.
Okay, so it went back to the pit, the little safe house that you all have there.
Okay.
You would have also recalled that the large stone creature, whoever was speaking through it, had told you all to come and speak with them to make repayment for the theft of their flower at some point as well.
Okay. Would we all have to go collectively or just anyone?
I guess that would depend on Georgie. So having completed this, would she actively go out and search these things, or would she wait for the order to provide her kind of some guidance as far as what they are wanting her to do?
It was said during the last session, because I know Eric brought up that he owed them, and Blanche said, no, we all do. So it was said that at some point we would probably all end up there. Not sure that you would listen, but...
Cool. Honestly, from what the flower was able to tell her, she would probably she would go on her own, because it's intriguing for her that this flower told her how, I guess, to utilize it. And she will want to know more about it and like what its sort of mystical deal is.
Okay.
So to speak.
So are you more interested in the flower or in what the flower was used for? Because I could see this being working the case, but I guess I'm trying to figure out what aspect of the case you're working towards. Because I guess since you weren't here, the flower was able to give you some information through its mysticism. It's kind of it was called a unicorn horn. And so the center of it was kind of a stiffened kind of stem that was maybe about 4 or 5 inches long, a white piece kind of with a golden kind of loop around it. It seemed to be understand its purpose to cleanse the water as you spoke to it, so it did seem smart, which might be strange for a plant. It also seemed to recognize it's the sacrifice, that it would basically be sacrificing itself to cleanse the water. You would have been able to discern that it's a very rare plant, that where it came from, you might not be familiar where exactly, but it requires very particular soil, temperature, and all of that to be able to care for it. So it's a rare plant, but it's very difficult to care for.
Yeah, she's definitely interested in it. Like, she wants to know how it came to be in our possession.
Okay. So
because she wasn't there when it was stolen.
Yeah. Let's see, I don't know if I would have you spend this. I guess, Eric, how much did you tell about how you got the flower to the group?
I think I told them that it was stolen from the botanical garden, but I'm not really sure I went into all the details as to how.
Okay.
Just as to, well, I think when people were asking me like why I had a broken leg, I might have explained about jumping off of a wall. So there's a little bit of information there. Most of it probably.
Okay. I guess right. What is we could say that this is working the case. So you can have 3 specific questions as you're trying to either question yourself or go into the gardens to question people there. But what are 3 specific details that you would like information on? And if it's something that I think your character would already have, we won't have to spend it. But if it's new information, then we'll spend one of the clues.
Okay. All right. So she would make, I guess, her way to the botanical gardens.
So they're in the Old Burrows. It's kind of on the edge near the university. The Old Burrows are the oldest buildings. The road turns to cobblestone. All the buildings have ivy kind of growing down there. There's the old kind of iron bar lights that go up and down. The university is probably one of the oldest buildings around. But the gardens themselves, you catch the smell probably from a few blocks away. As you get close, there's a large gate with a marble entrance that leads into a vast open landscape. There's all types of flowers, trees, bushes, plants, some butterflies and birds kind of dot the landscape. It looks impossibly large for what it appeared to be from the outside. It seems to just stretch and stretch on. There's a wall that surrounds the entire place, and you do see the wall from the outside. Inside there's a variety of statues that dot the landscape. There's man and beast alike, and a few occasional fountains that kind of mix and cause a light, steady sound of water to mix with the buzz of bees. There's a variety of climates that you're able to see. There's a more dry and arid kind of place, a temperate area, and one that actually looks humid, almost like a rainforest, and they all seem to separate themselves out. There's a few people that are selling food off the other side paths that walk around. There's a child at the front that sells maps to give you an idea. It seems to be a place that some schools might come to educate their children on the different types of flowers. Families will come here, just a place. It's a butterfly pavilion, as it were. So yeah, as you get there, what would your questions be?